Hello, everyone. This is the triumphant return of my Beatles on Vinyl YouTube series. And what I have here today is, as you can see, Let It Be. Now, this is the 2012 release of the 2009 remaster. So, just to be clear, the entire Beatles catalog was remastered in 2009, and they put those on CD. And then in 2012, they released those remasters on vinyl. Now, this here is not a replica of the original. Or maybe it is, I don't know. Because I know there was a version of this that had a gatefold cover, kind of like Sgt. Pepper and Magical Mystery Tour and the White Album, where you would open it up. I don't know why I'm doing this, because anyway, you would open it up and there'd be a photo and the track listing. I think the photo, I don't think I've ever seen it, or I saw it a long time ago. I don't remember. I could look it up, but I'm lazy. Anyway, you would open it up and there would be a photo. I think it was of the rooftop concert. And yeah, I don't know if that was like the original. Actually, I think there was kind of like a box set where this was in a box, and that would open up to the record, and the record would have a gatefold. I don't know. If I find one, I'll put a picture right now, right here, so you can see it, because I'm pretty sure that I'm correct. Anyway, like I was saying, this is not a replica of the original, or maybe not, like, maybe this is how it came out in England, and the Capitol release was the one I'm thinking about. Anyway, this is just a regular, your everyday record sleeve, and here is the back with all the tracks on it, and John Lennon looking pretty haggard here. He almost looks like a homeless guy, but I guess Paul's looking pretty derelict himself. And I think it's kind of funny that it says on the top here, this is a new phase Beatles album, because this was indeed not the last recorded Beatles album, but the last one they ever released, and the only one that wasn't produced by George Martin. This version here, and I'll tell you in a little while why this I'm saying this version, was produced by Phil Spector. So Phil Spector went on to produce other solo Beatle albums like Plastic Ono Band, Imagine, and All Things Must Pass. Now, here's the label. It's the Apple logo, kind of like the White Album there. There's the back. So the release of this album was kind of a point of contention for the Beatles here. Now, they recorded this in January of 1969 before Abbey Road, and it was very, very tumultuous, and they shelved the project. They didn't release most of the songs. They went on and they did release a few tracks on singles, like Get Back, Let It Be, Don't Let Me Down was one of the B-sides. Across the Universe was released as some weird benefit single thing that was put out in, I think, 1969. Anyway, I'm kind of digressing here a little bit, but this album as a whole was shelved and was not released until, I think, after they broke up, or the announcement of the breakup, which was initially told by Paul McCartney, who was the one who put the news out there, which kind of pissed off the other Beatles, because At the time that this was released, Paul McCartney also released his first solo record, and it was kind of like a conflict of interest where Paul McCartney was promoting his solo album while this was out, and the other Beatles got kind of pissed. But one thing that pissed off Paul McCartney when this album got released was that Phil Spector produced it, and John Lennon was okay with what he did. John Lennon pretty much said, I'm not really quoting him directly, but I think he said, we gave him shit and he put out something that was listenable, because John Lennon didn't really like how these sessions turned out. And Paul McCartney hated it. He hated, especially on The Long and Winding Road, he hated the production. This production is way different than anything you've heard on any Beatles album, because Phil Spector used what's called like a wall of sound, and he just kind of he doused the album with like really full and somewhat strange orchestration. I'm not that big of a fan of it. Some of the album sounds okay, I think. Two of Us, Dig a Pony, I Me Mine, Dig It, Maggie May, I've Got a Feeling, the one after 909, For You Blue, and Get Back. You don't really hear any of those, like any of that orchestration in those songs, but you do hear it a lot in Across the Universe, Let It Be, and especially The Long and Winding Road. And I think, especially since I've heard other versions of these songs, that they don't sound as good as they could have. So I kind of side with Paul McCartney on how this production was handled. Anyway, I kind of went off on a little tangent there about this album. But yep, this is the 2012 vinyl release of this. And when it comes to Let It Be as a record, in terms of where I would rank it, now it's hard for me to rank the Beatles albums. All I know is that I like Sgt. Pepper, not Sgt. Pepper, is that I like Revolver the best. All the other ones kind of float around as to where I like them. But I think I can say that this is close to being, not that, I mean, I love the album, of course, but it's probably close to being my least favorite out of all of them. But, I mean, even the worst Beatles album is better than most people's best album, so don't get me wrong on this. Anyway, now, as I usually do, I'm going to show you other versions of this album that I have. These are mostly on CD, and what I'm going to show you first, for the younglings who haven't probably seen these, this is the 1987 release of this album, and yeah, this is pretty much what I had from about high school all the way to 2009. So this copy that I have here is about 16 years old, and you know, it doesn't sound great, but it's what we had, and honestly, you know, sound quality isn't indicative of the quality of the music and the songs, and in the end, that's what really matters. But yeah, you know, they didn't really put a lot of effort into these, at least compared to what was done later on. As you can see, this kind of mirrors what the record has going on in the back. Let's open this up, and you know, it's nothing special. It's whatever. So here's the back, and yeah, this is what we dealt with for a really long time here. So you can see, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an old copy, but the color is way different. It's a bit more faded. I don't know if you'll see that on the camera, but that's definitely the case in IRL. So yeah, that's the 1987 copy. Next up this is the 2009 Remaster. Now this copy I have here is beat up. I have a whole nother copy of this where I kind of keep it in the box and don't use it. This is the one that I use when I'm listening at home, that, you know, I kind of throw around or whatever. So yeah, same cover, but on the back is a bit more reminiscent of the actual record, and Right here is the red apple. Now, this one, the record here should have had a red apple. That's what the original had, and that's why this has a red apple. So let's open this up, and let me show you the book. All these books are pretty cool. Now, a lot of these pictures that you're seeing here are from the Let It Be movie, which I believe had a home video cassette release, but never had an official DVD release, nor has it ever had a Blu-ray release. And I really hope that Apple Records, freaking releases it. Like, I heard, like, for the remaining Beatles, it's kind of hard for them to watch or whatever. But, I think they owe it to the fans to release it, so so younger people can enjoy it. I mean, I've seen the movie, and it is a little rough at times, but honestly, it's not it's not as tumultuous as I think a lot of people made it out to be. I mean, maybe there was more going on behind the scenes, and that's what they're thinking of whenever they look at this movie, but I don't know. Oh, this is from the famous rooftop concert. They really wanted to get arrested, but all the police really did was tell them to knock it off, and they eventually just packed it up and went home or whatever. So, this is a cool little book. And I know everyone's doing streaming and digital copies or whatever, but this is the kind of stuff that you can get with a physical copy. And it's worth it for the Beatles. Not really worth it for anyone else. Just stick with digital copies. But yeah, pretty cool book. Track listing on the back. And I don't remember if this has the red apple on it. It doesn't. Green apple. Okay. Alright. Next up is Let It Be Naked. Now, in my opinion, if you think differently, it's totally cool. People having different opinions is, that's awesome. It creates conversation. So, anyway, in my opinion, this is the best version of the album. Now, this was released in 2003, and it had the blessing of both Yoko Ono and Olivia Harrison. And what they essentially did was, this is kind of Paul McCartney's baby from what I remember, is they took out all the orchestration that was on the original copy here, and it's just the band. They took out two of the songs on here, Maggie May and Dig It. They're like a minute long, and they're kind of just like jam tracks. They took those two out and they put in Don't Let Me Down, which was a B-side on a single. I think it was the B-side of Get Back. And they changed up the track order too. And I think the track listing is way better, and the sound quality is pretty good, and the production is much better. They cleaned it up, and from what Paul McCartney said, it's what they intended originally before it kind of fell apart. And this copy also includes the fly on the wall here. And the cool thing about this is that you hear not only studio chatter, but like you hear them working on songs that eventually end up like on their solo records, and Abbey Road, which was recorded after this but released before it, at least in the 12 album Beatles timeline. So here's the book, and so you can see here, yeah, and this is really holding up because this statement here was made, I think, in the 1960s or the 70s or whatever. This right here, and it's 2016, and people still listen to the Beatles. And so there's a lot of words here. it kind of like this kind of breaks down. This is like the mission statement behind this project here and why they did what they did. And the next few pages are actually kind of like a they're what would you like a transcript of a lot of things they were talking about while making the record. And it's pretty cool. So a lot of cool pictures. Another rooftop picture with John making like a goofy face. There's John again with his cool long hair, Paul with his haggard beard. And let's just keep going. From what I understand, I think they did release this on vinyl. If you haven't heard this, it's not on like Spotify or anything like that. I think you can buy it like on iTunes. So if you haven't heard this, check it out. It's really cool. Now, one last thing I do want to talk about, and is this right here. And you may be thinking to yourself, hey, Will, why are you showing Past Masters Volume 2? What does that have to do with Let It Be? Well, this has, I think, 2 songs on here. 3 songs, actually, that were on Let It Be, but were actually produced by George Martin. And these are Let It Be, Don't Let Me Down, and Get Back. And these do sound different. So, and they have, you know, the traditional George Martin sound to them. And, you know, if you bought Beatles 1, which a lot of people did, and they both have Get Back and Let It Be, and those are the George Martin versions. And in my opinion, those versions of those songs are the best ones because George Martin knew what he was doing, and he knew how to produce the Beatles more than anyone else. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention is that Billy Preston, who is an electric piano player, was essentially the 5th Beatle on Let It Be and played electric piano pretty much on every track. So credit where credit's due. So yeah, I don't know if they really have anything in here about what happened with Let It Be. Let's see. Maybe. Oh, okay. So this is actually a blurb. I would pause it and read that so you can see what's going on there. So this page here kind of explains what happened with these versions of the songs. Anyway, I've talked about Let It Be for almost 20 minutes now, so thanks for watching, and I hope to have another one of these Beatle record videos out soon. Out way sooner than between the last one and this one. So again, thanks for watching.